Now, you've got to feel a little bit of pity for politicians because whenever there is a move to get companies to pay more tax, this is the routine. The business lobby springs forth and cries poor. They go sobbing to the politicians that if laws are brought in, even if they're modest measures, then it will hit jobs for ordinary people, for ordinary Aussies. It will raise prices for poor, beleaguered consumers, and it will bring sovereign risk. Oh no, it will scare away investors. This is rarely true, of course. It's scaremongering from slick, highly paid business lobbyists being little whining crybabies. And of course, they warn sternly that the politicians will be held responsible for these consequences. And it works. Now, Andrew Leigh, the finance minister, who's been doing a good job trying to get some reforms through, but of course, he's been battling for a couple of years now since the election promises, and the reforms, actually, the proposals now have been watered down, and we'll deliver some stories on the website about this, speaking to real experts, and we won't bore you with the details here, but suffice to say that it looks as though people are crossing their fingers and holding their breath, as though the multinational tax dodging laws proposed by Labor and Leigh are finally going to see the light. This is a good news story. It's a good thing too, because the wealthiest institutions in the world pay dollar for dollar the least tax. You and I pay more tax, income tax, literally in total dollar terms, than people like Chevron and Exxon have been paying. Foreign multinationals, some pay zero year after year. So in order to fund the future of this country, the services, pensions, welfare, health, infrastructure, at some point, we'll simply have to tax the multinationals properly. And we're not there yet, even with these measures. That's 5% of what we need to do, but it is something. So anyway, at this week's hearings into the Leigh reforms, there was the usual moaning and groaning. The bright spot, though, we had a spy on the ground there, was this American dude from SC Johnson. SC Johnson is a company which makes Raid cockroach traps, Windex spray and duck toilette cleanser, the blue stuff in the plastic cachet. And this is poetic because, like cockroaches, tax advisors love to hang out in dark spaces, burrowing about, trying to find their food down little crevices in the dark. It's all about the dark, lack of transparency. Transparency is the enemy of tax avoidance. So the SC Johnson guy was whining about what would be the disastrous consequences of these small measures for his small private family company. He was the tax counsel for this small private family company having to pay more tax. But our correspondent at the hearing, Jason Ward, promptly made fast to the ASIC database to find the accounts for SC Johnson Australia. They didn't pay much tax anyway. And we figured out that, just as the SC Johnson tax guy said, if Australia, as he said, was just 1% of their revenue, then this tiny, poor, little, struggling company, which has tragically been in a brawl over tax avoidance in its home state of Ohio, where it paid zip for 9 years, with my friend and correspondent David K. Johnson, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who pinged them, then got into a public spat with them. This poor little company, SC Johnson, must have revenues, therefore, of $7.6 billion, or otherwise he was misleading the Senate. And business people never mislead politicians. Just never happens. The poor dears. Anyway, a quick rundown on the rest of the stuff. Yes, the proposals have been watered down, and that is disappointing from the election promise phase. But we think they're going to get up. There'll be all sorts of jiggery-pokery going on in the background between now and sometime in August when they're meant to be legislated. There'll be a lot of lobbying and crying poor, but we think they will probably get up. So plaudits for Labor, plaudits for Andrew Leigh, because if he does get his reforms up, possibly next month, Australia will lead the world on some of these measures. We'll have more forensic coverage soon on the website. The guts of it is that the minimum global tax proposal is good. It's not huge in revenue terms, but it will bring in a few $1 million, maybe a couple of $100 million. The country-by-country reporting measures are the centrepiece of the reforms. They are a world first, good for the world, to stop the race to the bottom of everybody appeasing the business community and saying, yes, let's cut corporate taxes. Not that they pay much anyway. But if they get the country-by-country reforms up, it will lend strongly to transparency. How much they make in different jurisdictions, these companies, which they seek to hide. Ergo, more tax, because more visibility over what these cockroaches are up to is a good thing. It worked with the Abbott hockey reforms, which were the biggest reforms, bringing billions of dollars into the ATO coffers since 2015. So these reforms, let's just take CSL, the blood giant, this multinational. The profit per employee in Switzerland is 10 times the profit per employee in Australia. How so? It just means that they're deliberately killing their profits in Australia, sucking them out, funneling them into Switzerland, where the tax rate, the corporate tax rate, is lower. They are scamming Australia. Despite all the government help, all the COVID subsidies, yes, they're scamming us all. Well done, CSL. The increased subsidiary disclosures to this measure, the Leigh measure, is good. More information is always good, and a lot of multinationals don't bother disclosing, or maybe disclose what they deem to be material in the companies which they own and control. The subsidiaries. Rupert Murdoch is a classic, burying subsidiary disclosures. Exxon, Chevron, the oil giants, all of them, hundreds of subsidiaries, very few disclosed. It's what they deem. And the PwCs of the world and the Big Four, their auditors, deemed to be material. Well, your material is not my material. We have a different regard for materiality. The PRRT measures, that's the specific oil and gas tax, because as you know, 80% of our gas is exported for huge profits for foreign multinationals, and yet we've got a gas crisis at home, even though we export it all. Ridiculous. But these guys are powerful, there is no doubt. They are the big lobbyists that hold sway over Canberra, and their donations work. They have bought our politicians off. Simple as that. No credibility when it comes to hydrocarbons and big fossil fuel companies. So the PRRT measures are rubbish. They're just pocket fluff. In fact, they look like they've been written by, ARPIA, or the oil and gas lobby itself. The biggest gougers are the gas exporters. So there's no joy there. That's just a few timing differences, thanks to the oil and gas lobby. Only allowing 90% deductibles rather than 100%. I mean, so what? They just deduct everything they can. Use new project losses, offset against old projects which are making fabulous profits and have done for decades. We'll look at the professional firms measures. That's the stuff in response to the PwC debacle later, how they're going to make them pay tax. The partnership issue is a real problem. They should be forced to incorporate, as Barbara Pocock has said, because partnerships hide stuff. They don't have to disclose anything. And the minimum global tax rate measures, good, has to be paid somewhere, good for the world, not huge in revenue terms. So well done, Labor. If you can get this up the next few weeks, you're going to be getting a lot of knocks on your doors, people crying, Paul, that the sky is falling in and the world is going to end. So if you stay strong on that, it'll be a good one. Then we need to do more after that. Please like, share, or comment in the space below, and throw us a few bucks on Patreon if you can afford it.